Hey friends, David Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project. This is Huck L. Berry. She's got her winter coat going. She's a good girl. Ah, yes, you're a good girl. And she loves getting scratches. Loves her butt being scratched. Yes, you're a good girl. Yeah. Good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. She's going to take a snooze while we delve into this case today. Thank you for being here. And again, this is her channel, Huck TV. Just to let you know that this movie is still proceeding correctly, on track, doing well. We had a lengthy review session about it yesterday, and I gotta say that I am very pleased about the progress being made. Very pleased. You guys are doing a great job. So don't worry about that. Release date March 2026. This movie, one you guys didn't expect, is going to be released December 1st, American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster. It's going to be released, we don't know how, where, when, probably on Amazon December 1st. But the big premiere is going to be at the Tacoma Convention Center in Tacoma, Washington, Black Friday. It's a day that the most people in the United States go to the movies, so why not come see our movie? We have people coming from as far away as Minnesota and Florida to come see the show. And it'll be fun. There's two different packages. One is just the basic entry, $25. And the other one is a VIP premiere package. You could come in and it's going to be fun. The guys that worked on it really did a good job. So I'm ecstatic about that. And that is going to be Black Friday, November 28th. So please pass the word. And if you can be there, I mean, we're in the center of Bigfoot heaven, the Pacific Northwest, so there should be a lot of fans up there. But I know a lot of people just won't even hear about it without your help, so appreciate it. Now, we're talking about the Pacific Northwest, so let's talk about Washington. Now, many of you have purchased Missing 411 Washington, my book. Covers cases in that state. This is an incident that was never covered. Recent research uncovered it, and if it wasn't for the persistence of the team, we wouldn't still be uncovering these. And I am still flabbergasted by the number of cases of people who have disappeared in the woods, and their bodies are still out there. I'm amazed, truthfully. So, anyhow, on to it. This man's name was Harry Wright, 39 years old, missing October 18th, 1947. What else happened in our world of significance in 1947? Do you know? Watch Missing 411, the UFO Connection. You can watch it on Tubi for free. Watch it. You can watch all my movies on Tubi for free. Missing 411, Missing 411, The Hunted, Missing 411, the UFO Connection. Go there and watch them. And that question will be answered to you. Now, he was missing in the Mount Baker National Forest deer hunting. He was married and lived in Everett, Washington. And he was an employee of the Brownings service station in downtown Everett. He was known by a lot of people for his helpful nature, can-do attitude, hard worker, loved the outdoors. And he was missing near a mountain called Monte Cristo. Monte Cristo right here. Here's Monroe, Washington. This is Index, Washington. And there's going to be another case that we're going to talk about in the next video right here at Mount Index, 17 miles. I'm also going to talk to you about another disappearance just a few miles away that was fairly recent right there where a person was never found. This is a cluster zone of missing people on the Washington map. This is where Mr. Wright was from, Everett. This area of Washington is extremely gorgeous, just to let you know. So, he was hunting with a close friend, a man named Ed Hodgman from Lake Stevens. And Mr. Hodgman brought his son, Jerry. So the three of them drove up together, and they were hunting between Lake Kelsima and Helena Peak. And the Hodgmans stated that Harry was last seen wearing a heavy wool shirt, long pants, armed with a rifle. The men drove up, parked their car early in the morning, and right away decided to split up and hunt and meet back at the car that afternoon. The car was parked on the Mountain Loop Highway. And the plan was to make a large loop through the woods and meet back at the vehicle. Now, I'm going to implore on you that if you're a hunter or a hiker, before you leave, you check your phone and you check the weather for that area you're in. Imperatively important. So at about 3 p.m. that afternoon, Ed Hodgman and his son started back to their vehicle. And they got to their car just as heavy rain and big winds hit the area. 3 inches of rain hit that area from 4 p.m. that day going through Saturday night. Now the Hodgmans were sitting in their car and they could not believe how hard it was raining. And it was just coming down in gushers. So I doubt if they checked the weather. They were lucky they made it back in time, but Harry was still out there. So after a couple hours of waiting in their car, they got out and fired several rounds trying to give Harry a direction of where to go and where to look. Didn't have any effect. But the rain was just continually to pound that area. And they put on their rain gear and they went out and they looked for their friend. And that is impressive. Now, if you're a hunter or a hiker, this is a little lesson. There's all kinds of rain gear you can buy. There's a poncho out there that's made of real thin plastic. It's orange, and it fits in a little pouch about this big. And it's big. This poncho is big. And it's not meant to keep you completely dry if you're hiking or if you're hunting. It's meant to keep you dry if you huddle up, say between some boulders or in a little cubby somewhere in the mountains, and you let that poncho drape over you, and you're completely covered, and you let the rain pass. If it rains for 2 or 3 hours, you got to wait it out. But I would encourage anybody to get that. I got mine at REI, but almost every hunting and fishing supply store carries them. They weigh almost nothing, come in a little plastic pocket. They could save your life. I talk about this all the time. And in this instance, you could have almost put that poncho in your back pocket and walked around with it. So the Hodgsons waited until late at night. Harry still didn't come back. So they came off the mountain and they looked for rangers or the sheriff to report a missing person. They eventually found the rangers in that district and reported Harry as a missing person. It was hunting season, and there were other emergencies that were happening in the area because of this torrential rainstorm. They also, at the time that they notified the rangers, they also notified Mrs. Wright about her husband being missing. Well, the U.S. Forest Service members got retired members to assist with this. They also knew that there was a Boy Scout camp at Lake Kelsima, and they got them to help on the search for Harry. The Hodgman said that Harry didn't have an axe or a knife and believed he had light rations with him. Now, I read this and I gotta admit I was a little puzzled. I don't know a deer hunter that goes out deer hunting and doesn't have a knife. And why is that? When you hunt, it's important that you take the gizzards, the interiors out of the animal as fast as you can. Once you have those out, the meat will last a long time. If you leave those in and it starts to deteriorate, it spoils the meat and it's not good. The only way you can do that is if you have a knife. Now, maybe Harry was thinking that if he's going to shoot something, he's going to come back, get the Hodgsons, and they're going to go out and they're going to work the animal together. It's possible. But I don't know anyone that does this. Now, one thing about Harry that was made blatantly clear is he was a very, very experienced outdoorsman, knew the area that he was in exceptionally good shape, and nobody had any real concerns about his welfare. But I still go back to that point about no knife. I don't understand that at all. So the Rangers got up there on that next day, the 19th, and they started hiking around. And when they got there, the rain had just stopped. It had rained super hard all night. They got out on the trail early in the morning and they started hiking again. And at 11 a.m., it started a light rain again. The Rangers made a note that any tracks that might have been left by Harry were washed away because the storm was so strong. And that area has a lot of granite to it. The Hodgsons told more people in their community. Mrs. Wright got people from her community in Everett. And November 20th saw another day of searching by 10 current and former rangers under brutal conditions. Steep ground was wet and slippery. It was brutal. Now, the U.S. Force doesn't at that time have a contingent of huge number of men working in an area. And that area I showed you is just 17 miles away. There was another massive search that was going on at the same time for 2 students that disappeared in the wilderness on October 12th. Now, Harry disappeared on October 18th, so 6 days earlier, the search was still going on. Parents, rangers, students, friends were all pushing for more resources from the Forest Service, and they didn't have any more. And the Forest Service was trying to manage resources and satisfy the needs of both events and didn't have it. You may not understand this, but I'll explain it to you. So, Forest Service personnel, sheriff's search and rescue teams, sheriff's deputies, they don't go out and search every day. Search and rescue teams maybe get called out a couple times a year. Hiking in the woods and looking for somebody is a lot different than hiking on a trail. A hunter doesn't hunt on a trail. A hunter goes off trail. When you go off trail, the hiking gets 5 times worse because you're walking over logs, you're stumbling over branches, you're walking through creeks. There's a lot of up and down, uneven ground, and it wears on you. And when you don't do this on a daily basis and you don't work those muscles on a daily basis, it just wears you down unbelievably. And after the first day of doing something like this, you come back and you are exhausted. You wake up the next day and you're sore. And if you're the U.S. Forest Service on this search, you go back out again. And you go back out again. And by that third day, you're just depleted. And that's what the Forest Service was looking at on this search. October 21st, the chief ranger in the Verlot area was a man named Ken Wallen. He made a call late in the day to the Snohomish sheriff, a man named Tom Warnock. Ken stated that his men were depleted, and he had exhausted all of his search and rescue funds in his office over the multitude of issues that were happening in his area. He said that he had requested Warnock's Sheriff's Department to take over the search for Wright. He says, hey, I don't want to quit, but I don't have the money to pay my men on the overtime for this, and somebody needs to keep looking for Mr. Wright. He was very sympathetic, but he needed help. Now, things have changed over the years. Back in these days, it was the U.S. Forest Service, and many times it was the primary search and rescue. Today, it's primarily the sheriff's office in Forest Service land. But back then, it was Forest Service. Well, so Warnock, the sheriff, Sheriff Tom Warnock, yes. Warnock, the next day, organized, because he wasn't told until late in the evening on the 21st. The next morning, he organizes a organizational meeting with all of his heads of his different departments. And he called on deputies who were in shape, who were available, who could be reassigned from their patrol duties or jail duties. And he needed several of them to get up on the mountain to search for Wright. He told the Forest Service that he would take over the search at the end of the meeting. He said he had the resources to do it. The next day, on October 23rd at 6:30 a.m., the Snohomish County Sheriff took over the search. Now, what you had a 1-day delay. Late on October 21st, the sheriff gets notified. He has to get his resources together. He has a meeting, he gets them together the next day, waits 1 day, the next day on the 23rd he goes out. That day could mean everything. To a man, say, who was in the mountains with a broken leg, couldn't move. It's raining, wet, cold. Well, Warnock and his deputies arrived at the search and rescue location at 6:30 a.m. Warnock was advised that Wright was a highly experienced woodsman and wasn't prone to being lost. And in fact, in the 15, 20 years that he had hunted in those mountains, he had never been lost. And his friends believed that he had to have been injured, otherwise he would have walked out or people would have heard him shooting off his rifle, which was a key thing. Nobody had heard any gunshots, even from other hunters in the area. Sheriff Warnock picked the most highly trained search and rescue deputy and outdoorsman that he knew, a deputy named Don Fisher. Fisher was a highly trained mountaineer and had brought a truckload of gear for the men that were going to do the search. He brought some cold weather, wet weather gear, communications, food, water, maps, and a highly organized mind. On those maps, even before grid searching was normal, he divided up that mountain into areas and he sent people into different regions and zones. Harry Wright's wife was on the scene and brought the family dog The dog wasn't a big dog. It was a small dog. But the dog was super, super tight with Harry. Dog loved Harry. Harry loved the dog. And the Forest Service thought that maybe if they brought the dog out there, the dog could track and find Harry. Well, they took that dog out that first day with the sheriffs. They got nothing. Small dog, small legs, probably tired quickly, my guess. October 24th, a Friday, Deputy Fisher told a small contingent of the press that they'd found nothing the previous day. They had air resources ready to fly, but the weather had been uncooperative. Fisher said that they would search hard over the weekend and then evaluate their efforts then. That weekend brought people that normally would have worked, brought them to the scene, so they had a pretty large group ready to go. They said that on Monday they would give them a reevaluation of what happened, but over the weekend they wanted to be left alone and just search. Good plan. October 27th, a Monday, Fisher met with the press again, and searchers had found nothing. And he stated that all search and rescue would be terminated until the following weekend. Harry disappeared on the 18th. It's now the 27th. He stated that a huge area had been searched, some of it with other hunters. Nobody's seeing anything. He said that all hope of Wright being alive was being abandoned. He said that they were going to get together a large group of people for the next weekend, make a big attempt to find the body. It's reasonable. During that week, hunters were all out there looking, hunting, found nothing. Saturday, November 1st, a large group was formed to search for one day, Sunday. And they said that they would try to get as many people as they could. Many of them, students from Everett High School, were coming, along with groups from Skagit, Bremerton, and throughout Snohomish County. It had become a regional issue that this hunter was gone, and they took pride in finding their people, so they got a lot of individuals out there. November 3rd, Monday, Fisher had another press conference and stated that he had 150 searchers yesterday. 50% more than he thought he had. He said that they were focusing on an area between Devil's Thumb. Yeah, remember the book I wrote, Devils in the Detail? These areas are named for a reason. You never really know why, but devil in a name isn't good. Between Devil's Thumb and Deer Creek, and a fork of the Stillaguamish River. At the end of the press conference, Fisher said something that they hadn't heard before. And it was emphatic. He said the searchers did not believe that Wright was in this area any longer. Some believe he walked out of that area to hunt an adjacent zone, but the area was searched so thoroughly, they didn't believe they had missed anything. Forest officials, volunteers, deputies all participated in that massive event on Sunday. This area was steep. Hunting was on rough ground, difficult hiking. It's actually a good area to hunt because most hunters won't go in there. Most hunters like hunting in open meadows and flat land. Most are unwilling to pay the price. And the biggest thing, what I told you earlier, you have to haul out what you kill. So wherever you park your car, as a hunter, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, well, if I walk out there 5 or 6 miles, I've got to haul that animal back to my car. So most hunters won't go more than a couple miles from the car. And it's a It's a conundrum, because usually the farther you go from the car, the farther you go from a road, the better the hunting gets. Well, Wednesday, November 5th, the Forest Service and the sheriff, they were out of ideas and out of resources. And they didn't know quite what to do. And up walks two of the most experienced hunters in this region of Washington. They were outfitters. They'd hunted for decades in this specific area. They were in really good shape. They could probably outwalk a mule. And they contacted the sheriff because, like I said earlier, this region was proud that they didn't lose people, that they found everybody. And these two guys came in and they said, hey, we want to have your blessing and we want to have your knowledge. We want to go into this area where Harry disappeared for a week. We believe we can find him. We think we know the area he probably went into to look. At the end of 7 days, we'll come back out. We'll give you a briefing about what we found. And the sheriff said, well, I can support that. And I wish you good luck. Well, that was on the night of November 4th. The men left in the morning of November 5th. Between November 5th and 7th, it started to snow. And as the days went on, it snowed heavier and heavier and heavier. And it made the task of finding Harry impossible. Heavy snow and cold temps eventually even forced these men out. And this was the last formal effort to locate Harry. Over this following summer, there were friends that went up there, hiked around, and looked. They didn't find him. Eventually, everything was given up. Now, Harry disappeared October 18th, 1947. September 20th, 1948, the Snohomish County Superior Court was given a motion by Harry Wright's wife, Lucille. The motion was for her to become the trustee for Harry's estate. And the judge granted the motion because Harry was, in the judge's mind, deceased. Now here's what I want you to think about. This happened October 18th, 1947. Thousands of hikers, hunters, campers have traversed this area where Harry disappeared. And remember, I even said that there was a camp there at the Lake Alcima where Boy Scouts were camped out. His body's never been found. And what's more surprising to me is that his rifle was never found. The rifle's never going to go away. That thing could lay on the ground for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and it'd be a rust bucket, but it's never going to disappear. Harry's body, now that could get torn apart by animals, eaten, but certain parts of his clothing, and I've explained this before, specifically the boots, will never disappear. And I've been told that by many old-time search and rescue people that have stated that they found boots that had been in the mountains for 50, 60, 70 years. Now, I told you that there is another case. As this case was going on, there's another case right here. And the next post I'm going to make is about this incident right here. And the next video will be about this incident. Now, right here, just a few miles away from Monte Cristo, is a place called Vesper Peak. In 1947, Vesper Peak didn't really have any huge notoriety. But But since I've been doing disappearances, it has a lot of notoriety to me. It has the disappearance of Samatha Sayers on that peak. Samantha vanished on a solo hike August 1st, 2018. She was an in-shape girl, young lady. She also had a type of condition that her hair fell out. So she always wore a hat. She had a bald head, being a girl. So when you saw her, you wouldn't forget her. She was an attractive girl, but she had no hair. I wrote a lengthy segment on her disappearance in Missing 411 Washington. She climbed the peak, sat on the top, and had lunch. And there were some other people at the top that she spoke to. And after a period of time, at the summit, she hiked down. Somewhere between the top of that mountain and her car, she disappeared. And I got to tell you, there was a huge search on this case. Monumental search. But that wasn't the end. She had a boyfriend named Kevin Dares. Kevin isn't like most boyfriends. Most boyfriends would have been very disturbed, upset, depressed, maybe gone up to the mountain for a couple days looking. Not Kevin. Kevin searched that mountain for months on his own with friends into areas where nobody would go. The man was a non-stop search machine. And I say that in the most polite, respectful, and admiration mode I could tell you. Kevin did not give up. In all of the thousands of cases I've read about, Kevin was a very unique person. He reminded me of fathers of young people who have disappeared, who wouldn't give up searching for their kids. That's the closest thing I could think. I never have met or heard of a boyfriend like Kevin that just gave such a huge part of his life looking for his girlfriend. And in a sad side note, Samantha was never found. It's a highly unusual case in a cluster in this area. Now, Vesper Peak was a peak that a lot of people climb. To disappear on it is strange. To not be found is even more strange. And to have somebody like Kevin searching for you for months and not being found is even more strange. Which, considering it's only about 4 miles from where Harry disappeared, yeah, this area is strange. So, I want to tell you that it's not hard for me to have respect for these people that give up of themselves trying to look for other people. Kevin, I admire you. Now, kindness, we could always use more of that in our world. And some of you have written to me and said, you know, Dave, this is what I did. This is my act of kindness. Beautiful. What I've read has been beautiful. Thanks for doing those small things that some people will never know anything about. It's important. One thing I want to ask you to do is that I get a lot of comments on the video sometimes where I can tell that nobody has read the #1 pinned comment on the video. Sometimes after I do one of these, sometimes, the video is front end loaded several days. And in that several days, my research will find something more about a case that I didn't include on the video. So on that #1 pinned comment, I'll add that comment. So please read the pinned comments. There'll also be links to other videos on those pinned comments. And they're important. And they add a lot to the understanding of the topic that I'm speaking about. So I appreciate you being here so much. I really do. And if you could place these videos on your social media, it would help us immensely. Huck appreciates it too. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.